You're listening to The KYLO Show, a podcast where we talk about how to keep your love on no matter what and why whole healthy families are going to save the world. Hiding, blaming, manipulation, and flat out using people are fear-based tools that create relationships full of anxiety. That's not what you want. In this week's episode, Danny and Brittany talk about how to move out of self-preservation and into connection so that you can love like Jesus. So, if you want connected, life-giving relationships, buckle up and get ready because this week's episode starts now.
Welcome to the KYLO Show. We're here. We're talking about some fun things. We've just started rolling out some new stuff.
We are in our new phase, our new way of doing stuff.
Yes. And, we'll always start with a little bit of discussion.
Yeah.
Talking about the topic, which this topic today is to choose love over fear.
It is not as easy as it sounds.
No, it sounds really nice.
Yeah.
But in the face of it.
Just do it.
It's an easy choice.
Yeah.
So easy to do.
Or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably the biggest battle in the world is between love and fear. But we turn it into all kinds of other stuff. We turn it into people.
Yeah.
My battle is with people who disagree with me. My battle is with enemies. And Jesus basically said, nope, just love your enemies. They'll go away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do I do about all the fear? Now we're back to that.
Yeah. Well, we had a conversation the other day with Lincoln just about loving your enemies. And it was so funny to watch him in the backseat, just like, I don't understand this. And the girls were like, they're chiming in with all the people he should love that he's like, what? And we named some people that have had, as a family, we've had some really painful exchanges, and we're like, we love this person. And he's like, no. I'm like, no, we do, buddy. And then we talked about being powerful and how choosing love over fear makes us powerful.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. It's funny to blow the 8-year-old's mind, but he's got a lifetime of it.
Yeah, it's pretty classic that we are so afraid of being punished.
Yeah.
We're so afraid of being hurt. We're so afraid of being rejected.
I'd say rejected is a big one too.
And so when we approach pretty much any relationship, there is this, if it feels safe, then I'll bring out my love. But the second it goes south, all I have is a bunch of survival mechanisms.
Mm-hmm. It's like people turn into a Swiss Army knife or something. Like, what can I do to defend myself? What do I need to do to change?
Yeah, and it's so predictable that it's triggered by the fear of being punished.
Mm-hmm. Which, I think I look at Ben and my response to fear looks different than Ben's.
Yeah.
Mom and I are similar, and you and Ben are similar to that. Like our triggered response of fear, it looks aggressive to gain back control. Where I think Ben's is more of a subdued kind of
avoid.
Yeah, totally. An avoid.
Yeah, I think Ben and I are more, well, let's avoid that and let's move on. Let's pretend like that didn't even happen.
And we're like, what?
Hey, look at this flashy thing. Just look at this flashy thing, and we're going to pretend like that did not just happen. Woof, wasn't expecting it to go there. Don't want to start a fight. Yeah. You look upset. Dang. Flashy thing.
Which is really just that punishment face. It's amazing how much humans like punishment. It's like it is as a default of some kind that we have chosen to believe that it helps us feel safe.
Yeah, this goes back to the garden. When Adam and Eve decided to switch governments. When they went away from the goodness of the Father, all their needs met, one rule, just so they know they have a ruler, and the serpent comes along and tempts them with, oh, so you have a ruler, huh? Oh, see, God's afraid that if you break his rule, you'll be the rule maker. And that deception, it appeals to self-preservation. It's got to save myself. I got to protect myself. I got to watch out for myself. It's all about me and myself. It's all that stuff. And boom, over there now, looking through a perverted lens of everything, including the Father. I can't see my Father anymore. All I can see is somebody who wants to hurt me. And I'm on my own, and the most powerful being ever wants to hurt me because I betrayed him. So mankind goes into a 10,000 year history of self-preservation, of orphan, of cut off. And it isn't until Jesus comes along and says, hey, you know what? If you are born again, you get another shot at this. You don't have to be a slave to that fear anymore.
Yeah.
You can actually learn to be a little child in the kingdom. You can be reconciled and restored to your Father. So we don't have much practice in really doing a good job with that. And even Christians today are still just so struggling with the idea of a loving Father who has no desire to punish them, has no desire to hurt them, or only has their goodness in mind. You have to go to church every Sunday and hear that and go, oh, that's right, I forgot. And it's just so predictable that we will default to, I'm on my own. I got to watch out for myself. I got to protect myself from you and from everybody else who wants to hurt me.
Yeah, I think, just chasing after that war of fear and love and control and punishment, avenue. And I think I have one really clear memory of operating. I mean, I'm sure that if you ask my children, there's more than this one, but this is one that's really impacted me. But it was when Lincoln was little. I mean, he was like 3 years old, and he had destroyed a makeup palette. For fellas out there that don't know what that is, basically a bunch of eyeshadows. Those go on your eye, again, if you don't know. And he got it all over the carpet. So the carpet's ruined and the wall. And, my anxiety hit because we were renting this house. It's ruined. I don't know how to fix it. So I have all this fear creeping in, and fear is never helping us be our best self. And I just gave into it. So my default, like we've talked about before, is that rage monster. So the control monster came out and scary, angry, crazy. And I remember picking him up because he was covered in like black and brown eyeshadow, glittery. I mean, looking at it now, it's funny. But in the moment, I was not funny. I was very scary, really. And I remember putting him in the shower. Again, he's like 3. And my face and my tone and my words were all just really
punishing.
And I remember going in and trying to clean it up, and just in the swirl of, it's all about me. Like, what's going to happen to me? How am I going to have to, just all I cared about was myself. And I go back into the bathroom to find Lincoln. As I come in the bathroom, he goes to the corner of the bathroom to get away from me, and he's just weeping. And I look at him and like, what is he doing? Why is he in the corner? And as I get closer, I can see that he's just terrified. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have let fear win in our relationship over love, over makeup. And I just watched him just cower from me, which that's the moment where usually if I let myself go too long in the story, I will start crying. But I just remember crawling in the shower, fully dressed with him and hugging him and just weeping and apologizing because it was just this the power of fear was so easy to partner with and is all consuming. And the sacrifice was my son, which is this crazy thing that I feel like we face often of not really knowing how easy it is to say yes to fear. When you think love would be so easy to say, that sounds great, but it's in those moments of where we just partner with the selfishness, I feel like, and the anxiety and swirl that we dismiss all that God's ever told us.
And it's so crazy because you love Lincoln so much.
Oh, so much.
You know, and yet you uncork the genie because of makeup. And you're like, okay, well, who doesn't have a bunch of these stories that they'd like to forget about? And it is so much of it has to do with, I catch that early in the moment because I have a different goal than domination or winning or being right or protecting myself or whatever. I actually have a much higher call, and that is to protect my connection with you. Now, there's some lessons coming your way, carpet cleaner, but there is zero need for me to destroy our relationship because I gave myself permission to be
a jerk.
Jafar.
I was Jafar in the genie version. It was not pleasant. And I think that's the catching it quickly of what's my goal. I mean, that's the practice of this, of choosing love over fear, is that practice of, in that moment where, I used to describe it as, the anvil or the anger volcano is starting to erupt, and I feel like the anvil of the Holy Spirit is trying to calm it down. Like there's this war internally of who's gonna win, and giving permission to let the Lord lead in love and let the Lord's like, this is who I am, this is who you are. What will you choose?
And it's like we get surprised. It's like we get caught off guard. It's like we didn't know that something was going to happen today. And it's like, wow, that's pretty regular. It would be good if we had a plan. If I just had a plan of what I'm going to do when I get scared. What am I going to do? Well, first thing I'm going to do is fix the situation. It's like, well, that's probably a bad first step.
When it keeps going down.
Maybe I should pick my counselor. Like, is my counselor going to be fear or is my counselor going to be love? Because right now I need some counsel.
Yeah.
And the more we practice something, the more it feels like it just happens. Like if I just practice fear, then it just feels like I just get scared, and then I have a mess to clean up because I chose fear and I handled it with fear, and now I got this big mess to clean up, and I'm sorry. So I become a professional apologizer. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care if you're sorry. I care if you change, and I care if you're more careful. But if I choose love again and again and again, it becomes much easier to manage myself in patience, gentleness, kindness. Here comes all that fruit salad, like, hey, look here. And it's happening because I've actually cultivated the character of Christ-likeness instead of the character of an orphan.
Yeah.
And, I mean, your story is memorable because it's a standout. Like, oh, I just don't do this, but it can happen. I mean, it can happen. It happens to everybody, and those kinds of things stick in your mind.
Yeah, and I think that's the, paying attention to who your counselor is a key component there of not partnering with the fear, knowing, these things are going to happen, whether they're your children, your boss, your spouse, your parents. It's across the board. Like, people are people. They have
stuff happens.
Yeah. It's just constantly going. So, who's your counselor? I love that. I think that's a really valuable thing to be paying attention to for a practical points moving forward
Yeah.
and being successful in this. So, well, we're going to jump into some questions. So
good.
I'm excited to hear who we have and what they've got for us. So yeah, let's do it. So we have some fun questions.
I love
you
fun.
ready?
I do.
Okay.
I am. Yes.
All of the
I
above.
do love them, and I am ready.
Okay, great. Because we're going to dive in. All right. The first one comes from Seth from Texas.
Come on, Seth.
My children sometimes have a tendency to blame and manipulate each other. And I'm wondering what I can say when they're doing that will help them reconnect and love each other better.
Well, Mom.
Yeah, I could feel it. This one was coming to me. I really, Ben and I both pushed really hard on the sibling relationship, because it is such a unique relationship that they're forever tied to, and I think often parents dismiss it, or they're like, well, they're just being brother and sister. And sure, I understand that, yes, they're with them more than anyone else, but they also play such a crucial role in one another's lives. And the beauty of family and the culture that we create, by putting that priority and giving wording and language to our kids, like, hey, this is a special relationship that we need to protect, just like you would protect mom and dad's heart. I need you to protect brother's heart, sister's heart. So I'm really going after kind of adding clarities to why we don't treat people like this and why we don't treat our family members like this, because this is a really special relationship. Brene Brown talks about in an audiobook that I read about this same subject, just in the sibling dynamic, and how, they see their worst days and their best days in a way that even their best friends never get to see. And so really kind of helping them learn how valuable this relationship is a gift, and kind of pushing on that rather than tolerating the siblings fighting all the time. I feel like we make room for that a lot.
What do you do when you see one of them blame the other one for how they are acting or how they're talking to them?
I usually ask lots of questions. Questions are our go-to in this family, but that when they were younger, that would be sad if that were true. Is a lot of what I would say is, your sister's not that powerful. Unfortunately, I said, because if she was, I think things would look differently. So I tend to make it a little bit lighthearted. Lighthearted, because I think we get sucked in as parents to the drama, and then we rub it all over, and then we're angry. Instead of saying, that would be sad if that were true, or your sister or your brother doesn't have that much power. What are you going to do to protect each other's heart? What do you think they need?
So you just keep coming back to who controls you?
Yeah.
Who controls you? Whose mouth was that you were using?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whose attitude was that you were demonstrating? Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of that.
Yeah. Who had the stick in their hand when they were swinging it? Yeah.
Yeah, we had a similar situation at night. Addie was playing with Lincoln, and she kicked him in the boy parts, which he's growing up. And the girls were like, what's wrong with him? It was a complete accident. But I was like, we don't ever play this game. Like, I don't know what you're thinking there. And she felt awful. I don't think she realized what was going to happen. And so, I mean, again, we've really put this as a priority for a long time. And so I'm thankful to see the fruit of it. But I that's what I'd be chasing after, is lots of questions, and don't take the bait when your kids are fighting in this no fun land.
Cool. Do we have another question?
We do. We have Dave from England.
What? All the way from England?
Yeah.
Does he live on a hill?
I don't know.
Oh.
My wife and I are friends with another married couple, and we've just found out that he was cheating on her. How can we be good support to them? We don't want to be counselors, but we do want to make sure that we're good friends.
Well, that's hard.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's never fun.
Here comes the punishment paradigm right here.
Yeah.
This is, when somebody breaks one of the big rules, it's really tough to keep your punishment in your pocket.
Yeah.
But this would be probably the group pain, the shared pain comes out right here, where I'm not going to pretend like you didn't shatter my heart. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not grieving over what's going on with your whole family. I'm not going to hide the fact that what you've done is very, very selfish. And I'm not even going to hide the fact that I want to punch you in the nose.
That I'm
but
so mad.
I do love you, and I am committed to walking through this and getting to the other side of this, whatever that looks like. I don't even know what it's going to look like. So keeping my love on is speaking the truth in love, but at the same time, renewing my commitment to our relationship, even though I feel thrashed.
I think about too the just the honesty that's required in this moment, instead of kind of hiding it or letting anger out, instead of really embracing the pain of that's what I feel the most. And what is the covenant that this relationship is? And then the questions of, is this person wanting to work on the problem? Because I think that's one of the hard things, is you're in this pain thing with them, and don't want to be your counselor, but I want to be there for you. And how do you identify, do you have a problem that you're working on fixing, or did you just confess because you got caught? So those are all things that you start to have to navigate through. And I think a role of being a counselor is you have to be careful that you're not working to fix a problem that someone doesn't want to fix.
Yeah. And you can't work harder on that problem than they do. But at the same time, you got some really great questions.
Yeah.
And one of them is, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I keep coming back to that.
And the trick there is to pause and to not fill in the blank space when they don't know what to say.
Yeah. Here's what you could do.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be my one takeaway there, is remember to just let them navigate it. So, are you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. We have Laura from California.
How do you discern between fear and wisdom when it comes to engaging in relationship? Meaning, some people aren't ready to have a true connection. So how do you determine if it's your fear or your wisdom that's causing avoidance or hiding?
I think what I catch in that question is the avoidance and hiding. If I'm avoiding and hiding, then I probably don't have a boundary that I put up. I probably have a wall. And my goal is distance with you because you're scary. So I am not communicating a boundary. I'm communicating rejection. Hiding and avoidance is a form of rejection. So that would be the difference between a wall and a boundary. Is a boundary communicates that I'm open to reconciliation, but I need some things. I don't know that you're ready to supply those things, but that's okay. Yeah. I'm open to it if you get there. But in the meantime, the reason you're a couple circles out is because you decided to not supply what I told you I needed. Safety, respect, connection, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I can relate in that I'm pretty cautious to jumping into a new friendship. That's how I'm wired. So I know that I'm not always the best judge of when I have a wall up or when I have boundaries up or when I'm just afraid. I'm so thankful for Ben because he's kind of, a community aspect of challenging me to lean in. So I think in this question, I also hear is, where is someone able to call you out when they know your tendencies of fear and distance, rather than kind of leaning in and seeing what's there because it's scary. Because I think the fear thing looks like I'm scared to try, or you're just scary and I don't even want to try, So I think having someone that's speaking other than just internally inside your head is usually wise there.
And another great case for feedback, to be part of a community that is aware that you're saying, I want feedback. I want to know how you're experiencing me. I want you to tell me how my strength of a high standard of relationship can get overused and disallow people from getting close to me because I'm like,
Yeah.
I have no faith that you'll ever rise up to this level of relationship. So hit the road, Jack.
So no chance. Do not pass go. See you later.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do one more?
Okay.
All right. This is Rob from California.
How do you choose love over fear when you encounter personalities that trigger a painful memory or experience from your past?
Well, that would usually be kind of the definition of a trigger, is that something from my past is now trying to control me and my future.
Mm.
So doing the work, doing some stuff that is usually painful, reliving something, figuring out another way of seeing that whole deal, responding to that whole deal. But usually realizing that I'm not the same person I was when that happened.
Yeah.
I'm older. I've learned some things. I understand self-control, whereas I didn't then.
Mm-hmm.
I forgave.
Mm-hmm.
I've healed.
Yeah.
I've that person no longer controls my quality of life, simply at the mention of their name.
Mm-hmm.
All the reasons to forgive someone is to get control of yourself back in in your half of the relationship. If you continue to justify unforgiveness and bitterness, then what you've done is you've put someone in prison,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the warden. But guess where wardens live? In prison, right?
Yeah.
So you're in the same prison of their character flaw or their mistakes. So forgiveness lets you out of their prison.
Totally. Which is a great point. I think, as much as it's sure different personalities rub differently, but it really is an indicator of there's still work to be done inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally reminds me of, remember Dr. Look? Every time we would drive into Reading, I had a not very good experience. I broke my jaw. That's a long story. But every time we drove into Reading, I would see his building and I would stick my tongue out. I was little, but I was so overwhelmed by the experience I had.
Mm-hmm.
That was traumatic, and I really struggled. I mean, I took that into my probably early teen years. I think every time we went into Reading, that's one of the first buildings I would see. But I remember just saying, I forgive you. And I remember Mom was like, you finally just now forgave him? I'm like, yeah. But it's just funny. The anxiety I had driving into Reading was always tied to this one experience. And,
with the dentist when you were 5.
Yeah, exactly. That I decided to keep for 10 years. Obviously, it was somewhat scarring for sure that I couldn't forgive the man. But I guess that's the power of forgiveness. Getting out of it is that you don't live in that trauma.
Or being so scared.
Mm-hmm.
You're just so scared that you just don't have a handle for it. You just don't know what to do. And it isn't until you realize that, okay, I am powerful over me, and I'm powerful over how I perceive that person, and my hopes of their demise, my desire for their destruction, my desire for their suffering. I control all those things.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I forgive.
It's beautiful. Well, this was fun. I loved all those questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always fun to dive in to hear what people are needing, and hopefully they're helpful. But we're going to hear from, have a testimony here in just a minute. So that'll be fun to hear and talk about it.
Cool.
All right, you ready to hear some good news?
I am.
I always love the good news part. Okay, we have a testimony from Bob and Lauren from California.
There are few things in life that will bring up more emotions, more fear, anxiety, and sadness than when you lose someone you really love and cherish. Last November, my beautiful father passed away, and he was really Bob's dad too. He was both of our fathers and best friend. And so when we had that monumental task of wanting to do a memorial in the middle of COVID, we thought, who knows my dad and who would be able to really champion the heart of what he carried. And both of us said,
Danny and Sherry.
What a gift.
What a gift. We've been friends with Danny and Sherry for years, and he knew Willie. And so, of course, he said yes, and he came down to the memorial.
And there was a lot of, like any service, I just think of the stress you have in a wedding. It's just much more of the memorial. There was just so many emotions and pain. And I think some unresolved issues for family members, just a variety. And so we had the memorial, and that was, of course, God just covered it. It was beautiful. But it was when we went graveside that the gift of who Danny is and the reason he was there really came to light.
Danny and Sherry have spent their life promoting love and reducing fear. And on the graveside, he did just such a beautiful job.
I think one of the things, I know for me, you tell me it was yours, but I would say, as you're sitting there like facing the casket and there's your dad and you're going to say goodbye physically for the last time. And Danny so tenderly just gave people room to share and think. And he said, if there are any unresolved issues, which of course there can be, now is the time in your heart to release those and to ask him to forgive you.
It was so beautiful at the service on Graveside. There were roses that we each threw in on top of the casket. And for Lauren and I, we loved her dad so deeply that the roses were roses of love. But for other family members who had unresolved issues, they had the chance from listening to Danny choose love over fear to resolve those issues when they threw the rose in.
And so our encouragement to you, and one of the most beautiful things that Loving on Purpose does, is to empower you to not be a victim, to empower you that it is for your own benefit to release and to forgive, to accept someone in all of their humanity, or you're going to lose the beautiful parts of who they are.
One of the things that I learned so much from Danny in the book Keep Your Love On was the scripture 1 John 4:18. There's no fear in love because perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. And so I've applied that to my relationship with Lauren. I've applied it to my relationship with my children, my friends, and in my business. And it's been something that has been guiding me. And I notice that when I'm talking to people, if I see their face kind of get confused or anxious or questioning, I realize that I must not be projecting love over anxiety. And I try to stop and say, what do you hear me saying? And I learned, these things in the book, Keep Your Love On. And I love the subtitle, Connection, Communication, and Boundaries, which means like, if you're disconnected, none of the other things are going to happen.
So stay connected, have the good conversations with people because you literally don't know when the last day is going to be. And remember that no matter what happens, perfect love will drive out fear. And so if you feel like you don't have it, Jesus is right there and he's going to help you navigate to your big win.
Just like he did for us.
Like he did for us.
Dear friends.
They are dear friends.
Yeah, that was quite a memorial service.
I was not there, but I did hear about it, and it sounded impactful in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine it's a powerful family. I mean, it's every person at that memorial is living large, and you just know that the dynamics of powerful people is there's powerful messes, powerful disconnections, and for whatever reason, we just don't want to let go. We're just so scared of being the one to let go that there's somebody who's passed away, going into the ground, and I'm still not going to let go. I'm still going to let that person's life alter my going forward. And so I think funerals are a great place to help people take inventory of what are you going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I said that, I said, this would be a great time to just forgive.
Yeah.
To forgive yourself, forgive this person, and release yourself and move forward.
Mm-hmm. We've mentioned forgiveness a few times in this, and it does feel like a underlining. It's not necessarily really loud on our notes, but it does seem like it keeps coming up of being a powerful person and living with love requires that I am going to forgive those that are scary.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think about Mom's relationship with her dad, and there was lots of fear and just lots of pain. And, he hasn't passed away. He's still very much part of our world, but she made a choice to forgive, even though this person is still around and can still be very painful. I have experienced and watched it. He is really sometimes really great at that. But she just continues to forgive because that is the most powerful place she can be, and just displaying love. And I've watched as a little girl to an adult now, just that dynamic. And I've watched the struggle with her of how hard it is to choose love sometimes, because it's just so much easier to be offended and just live
build
angry.
a wall.
Exactly.
Yep. Just you're over there.
And I don't ever have to love you, but that's not what we're called to do.
And it's not me getting to be the best me.
Exactly.
It's I let some part of you control the best part of me. And it's a part of you that I don't even, I don't respect, I don't value. And for some reason, I'm going to let that control the best part of me. So it is hard to overemphasize, especially as a believer, it's hard to overemphasize the role of forgiveness in choosing love over fear, because I want to use that fear as a justifier to be unforgiving. Yeah. And it cost me. It cost me my ability to love.
Well, the thing that I've watched Mom do is in this place of forgiving her dad and letting love in is that it has not, he comes over for every major holiday to eat with us. She takes him to buy popsicles, which is shopping with him is entertaining, if not anything else. But it's just this, it's not just saying, I'm going to forgive you. It's the Christian thing to do. I'm going to forgive you.
I don't ever want to see you again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's lots of Christians that do that. I'm going to forgive you, but I'm not ever going to see you again. I'm going to forgive you, and then I'm going to love you. That's the difference right there. And that's really what we're talking about in this state of when you're choosing love over fear and having to forgive someone, and then I'm going to love you. What does that look like? What does it mean to love someone when you've truly forgiven them?
And she literally has to go get him.
She does.
Yeah, he's in a home and he's 92 and she has to go get him
on purpose.
Put him in her truck, take him to the house.
Yeah.
Get him in the house, deal with his stuff, put him back in the truck. He gets to sit in the front of the truck, not in the back. Yeah.
He does.
And but it is a lifetime. It's been a lifetime. He's been around since she was 6. And there's some gnarly ugly in there.
Yeah.
And she is living and bearing the fruit of choosing love.
Yeah, this is true. We don't normally do this, but I think, I'm so just in my heart filled, convicted of if that place of forgiveness is something that needs to happen. I don't know who's listening. I don't know what you're struggling with. I don't know, if that fear is so loud that it makes it hard to choose love. But I think that there is such a beauty of your life on the other side if you're willing to forgive. There's such a beauty of release and permission on the other side of choosing to let go of that fear. And so I just want to invite you to really accept what God has for you and say, I want a life that's full of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to forgive, even though it's scary. Yeah. So I would just really challenge you to lean into that and ask Holy Spirit what he says. Because I just feel like there's something really good for you.
That's good.
And we want to champion you as a form of your community from here on the KYLO Show,
Mm-hmm.
but to challenge you. And if you're trying to escape from my words right now, you probably need to re-listen because I might be talking to you in a loving way. But yeah, so there's something good for you if you're just willing to choose love over fear.
Mm-hmm. And it's as simple as this, even as Brittany's talking, somebody's coming to mind. You see somebody's face. And you're like, oh, I got to knot my stomach over that rock. There they are. Yeah. That's the one. Let's start with that one. And you just put their name on your lips and you say, Father, in the name of Jesus, I forgive. And then you say their name. Mm-hmm. I release them from my judgments and my punishments. I believe that you know exactly what they need, and I pray that you give it to them, Lord, that you give them peace, that you give them joy, and I bless them with love and mercy, the same love and mercy you bless me with. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And we know that we've forgiven when we can bless.
Yeah.
So it's that simple.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us here on the KYLO Show. And we believe that whole healthy families will save the world. And maybe today was a really great step for you and having that freedom. So we hope that that's what you're chasing after too. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week when Danny and Brittany talk about KYLO Principle number 3, pursuing the goal of connection. Never miss an episode by subscribing to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us on the Loving on Purpose YouTube channel. And don't forget to submit your listener questions and testimonies to thekyloshow.com. The KYLO Show is produced by Ali Armerding, co-produced by Ashley Beck, Leah Alexander, Anna Hill, and Sherry Silk, sound engineered and edited by Taylor Silk, and promoted by me, Christian Zamora. We'll see you next time.